Well, it's time now for business news with Delana D'Souza. Starting out with tech companies hitting back against Donald Trump's immigration ban.
That's right, Nancy. Good morning. Silicon Valley has been up in arms over Donald Trump's executive order on immigration. Google, Apple, Facebook, and Airbnb say the decision is both unfair and dangerous. Now, while the travel ban only affects a small number of workers in Silicon Valley, thousands are likely to be impacted once the U.S. president goes after a visa program known as H-1B. Shirley Sitbon reports.
Half of America's startups were created by immigrants. That's one reason Donald Trump's executive order barring people from 7 countries left the industry in shock. Apple's CEO Tim Cook told employees in a memo, "It is not a policy we support. Apple would not exist without immigration." The company's co-founder Steve Jobs was the son of a Syrian immigrant. Netflix CEO Reed Hastings called the president's move un-American. Airbnb said it will provide free housing for its employees stranded abroad, while Uber said it would compensate its own drivers. Many tech bosses say that banning foreigners is not only unethical, it's also counterproductive. Mark Zuckerberg wrote on Facebook, "Expanding the focus of law enforcement beyond people who are real threats would make all Americans less safe." His company, like other technology giants, is directly harmed by the decision. Microsoft and Google alone have more than 200 employees already targeted by Trump's executive order. But hundreds of other computer experts may soon be under threat too. The industry recruits the world's best engineers through a special visa program, H-1B, which Trump may soon revise. Several tech CEOs hope to convince Trump his plans are bad for the industry and U.S. economy. Criticized for joining Trump's business advisory group, Uber's Travis Kalanick said he plans to raise the issue in Washington this week.
Staying with the tech industry next, and ride-sharing service Uber has found itself in hot water. Users have been deleting the app and posting the proof on social media. This after Uber drivers continued with trips to JFK Airport in New York during a taxi strike. Now, it had been called to protest the president's travel ban. Uber has been accused of trying to profit from the situation. The company's CEO, meanwhile, has announced a $3 million legal defense fund to help drivers affected by the ban. Travis Kalanick also under pressure after accepting to sit on Donald Trump's business advisory panel.
Well, Delano, what kind of impact is this travel ban having on the travel industry?
Well, Nancy, besides airlines being forced to screen customers before boarding flights to the United States, they too have started to pay attention for their own staff. Now, Emirates Airlines has had to change the roster of its pilots and flight attendants bound for the United States. Emirates flies to 11 U.S. cities and says it's complying with the new regulations. Industry experts say the travel ban combines administrative confusion for passengers and operational headaches and complexities for airlines. Now, compounding the chaos at U.S. airports over the weekend, Delta was forced to ground all domestic flights on Sunday. A 2.5-hour computer failure forced the cancellation of roughly 150 flights, stranding passengers around the country. It's the second technical glitch to hit U.S. carriers in the span of a week. United Airlines also suffered a computer breakdown, which grounded all of its flights the previous week. Delta flights, meanwhile, began taking off once again late Sunday night.
Well, how have the markets opened this week, Delano?
Well, over in Asia, we saw the Nikkei end the session in negative territory, closing down over 0.5%. Sentiment is lower following the U.S. president's travel ban. Elsewhere on the continent, markets were shut this Monday for the Lunar New Year. Now, Japan's Prime Minister is set to meet the head of Toyota Motors this week. Shinzo Abe is scrambling to respond to pressure from Donald Trump's protectionist stance on trade. The meeting comes ahead of the U.S. president's planned visit to Tokyo. During the trip, Donald Trump is expected to move towards a bilateral trade deal with Japan, this after withdrawing the United States from the TPP free trade agreement last week. And finally, this week, investors will be paying close attention to Apple. The tech giant is expected to announce a return to growth when it releases its results on Tuesday. Declining iPhone sales during the 2016 fiscal year left Apple with a 14% drop in net profit. Analysts are predicting a modest bump of about 2% for the most recent quarter. Apple shares are up over 20% over the past 6 months. That's on expectations that lower taxes under the Trump administration will allow the company to repatriate some of its massive overseas cash holdings. That's the business news. I'll be back in under an hour with more. I'll hand it back to you, Nancy.
Thank you, Delana. All right, well, stay tuned for more news coming up on France 24.